Morning, aloha. Today's date is March 14th, 2023. We're at the State Capitol Conference Room 329. Thank you for being here. First bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 239, Senate Draft 2. First up, Attorney General's Office.
Good morning, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, Rep. Garcia. Nice to be here with you. I'm Melissa Coloni, Deputy Attorney General. The department only offers comments today. We've identified a possible constitutional issue under Article 7, Section 4, and that's relating to the grant standards. We have attached sample standards to our testimony for your adoption or revisions if that fits your intent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we've got Department of Human Services.
Good morning, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, and Representative Garcia. Scott Maurice Shiga, Administrator for the Benefit Employment and Support Services Division, on behalf of DHS and our Director, Kathy Betts. The department appreciates the intent of this measure and offers comments. We also appreciate the amendments made by the prior committees. We agree with the extended time frame in Section 3 for accreditation. Extending time frame for accreditation will give new childcare workforce initiatives time to increase capacity and give eligible facilities give eligible facilities time to access accreditation resources and be able to do so in a less pressured time frame. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got Executive Office on Early Learning.
Aloha, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, and Representative Garcia. I'm Yuko Ariko Cross, Director of the Executive Office on Early Learning. We stand on our written testimony and support and defer to the Department of Human Services regarding implementation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next, we've got ELB. Robert Peters, representing ELB. Okay, provided testimony in support. Early Childhood Action Strategy.
Aloha and good morning, Chair, Vice Chair Garcia. My name is Vivian Eto, and I'm here on behalf of Early Childhood Action Strategy in support of this measure. We have our written testimony. We just wanted to stress the importance of the financial support and the technical assistance and the extended timelines for providers in becoming accredited. Without those kinds of supports and the additional time, our concern is that providers would not be able to meet POD requirements, and we would unintentionally reduce access to preschool as opposed to supporting it. So we thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hawaii Association for the Education of Young Children. Provider testimony in support. Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, Rep. Garcia. Keopu Relitz, Director of Early Learning and Health Policy for Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks. We stand in strong support of this measure. You have our written testimony. I just want to echo what others had said. Without a measure like this, we're risking providers not being able to unaccredited providers not being able to stay as part of Preschool Open Doors. And we see that Preschool Open Doors is an important vehicle to expand early learning options, and a measure you will be hearing next. And so I think it's very important so that we not only extend the time, but provide the important resources that they need, because it is a very intensive, time-consuming, and expensive process. Thank you very much, and here for any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, members, I've got 9 individuals providing testimony, all in support. So if any of the individuals are either here or on Zoom and would like to testify, please come on up and state your name. Okay, seeing none. Members, are there any questions? We're good? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Going to move on to the next bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 1023, Senate Draft 1. First up, we've got Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Sylvia Luke. Hi.
Hi, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, members of the committee. Thank you so much for your support and for hearing this bill, which is a companion bill and similar to HB 961. The Office of the Lieutenant Governor stands on its testimony in strong support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we've got the Department of Budget and Finance. Provided comments. Next up, Department of Human Services.
Good morning, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Mato, and Rep. Garcia. Scott Marishiga, Administrator for the Benefit Employment Support Services Division, on behalf of DHS and our Director. The department actually supports this measure, and specifically regarding Part 2, Section 3, DHS just notes in our testimony that we suggest the legislature consider changing the accreditation requirement to be voluntary until the childcare workforce is more stabilized or subsidized. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available if there's any questions.
Thank you very much. Next up, we've got the Executive Office on Early Learning.
Aloha, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, and Representative Garcia. I'm Yuko Arikawa Cross, Director of the Executive Office on Early Learning. We stand on our written testimony and support and would like to quickly highlight a recommended amendment. The EOEL Public Pre-K program currently only serves children in the year prior to entering kindergarten, and EOEL supports the effort to expand enrollment to 3-year-olds. As such, we respectfully request Section B, subsections 1 and 2 of Chapter 302L7 be amended to also reflect the addition of 3-year-olds. I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next up, Kamehameha Schools. Provided testimony in support. Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party.
Good morning. Michael Glory Jr., Chair of the Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. We stand in strong support of this measure. We just want to make sure that everybody knows, hopefully that this will be treated just like any GIA, anybody who uses these funds, so they cannot discriminate. As well as we would oppose anything that would weaken this bill by not giving a deadline for those to become accredited. Speaking from personal experience, my sister is a early childhood care provider, and prior to the pandemic, there was we did have enough early childhood care providers or educators in the state, and so leaving it open-ended does not provide the needed insurances that we get all these facilities accredited. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, Commit to Keiki. Provided testimony in support. Early Childhood Action Strategy.
Good morning again, Chair, Vice
Good
Chair,
morning.
members of the committee. Vivian Eto with Early Childhood Action Strategy. We stand on our written testimony and are available for any questions. Thank you for
Thank
the
you very
opportunity
much.
to testify.
Hawaii Community Foundation. Provided testimony in support. PAC, Parents and Children Together. Testimony in support. Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii. Testimony in support. Terry Locke as individual. Testimony in support. Anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 1023, Senate Draft 1? If not, please come on up.
Hi, Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks. I'm sorry if my testimony went missing.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
okay.
It's my fault. I see
Okay.
it here.
It's been
I
it's
just
been a
didn't
long
call.
week.
My accident.
No worries. Chair, Vice Chair, Representative Garcia, again, Keopu Relitz, Director of Early Learning and Health Policy with Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks. We stand in support of this measure, but we do want to highlight a couple of places where we wanted to see amendments. One of the things when we talk about universal access to early learning and preschool, we want to make sure that that access is meaningful. And for families, two of the biggest barriers are availability and affordability, or the ability to have enough money to go to those schools. There are measures to increase availability going on right now, and so what we want to make sure is that we're increasing the supports for affordability. And so the amendments we had suggested just make it clear. I know there are always ways that we could do things through admin rules, but I think we should make it clear the intent that we want to see increased eligibility, or at least the study of increased eligibility limits, so that more families can access preschool open doors. We want to make sure there's a higher reimbursement, so that when programs are trying to expand, that they're able to pay their staff living wages, things like that. So you have the testimony, but I just want to give you kind of a bigger picture view of why we're asking for those kinds of amendments. And I'm here for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Okay, I believe that's all the testifiers I have on the testifier list. Members, are there any questions? No questions? Okay, thank you, members. We're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. Senate Bill 235, Senate Draft 1. First up, Attorney General's Office.
Good morning, Chair, Vice
Good
Chair,
morning.
Representative. The department, my name is Chuck Fului. I'm standing for David Van Acker from the AG's office. The department supports the intent of this bill. We do note that currently the bill is asking for a report 20 days before the 2024 session. That leaves us only a few months to implement this program as well as to come up with that comprehensive report. So we do ask for a little more time on the reporting. Otherwise, the department is in support of the bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, we've got the Department of Human Services.
Hello, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Mato, and Representative Garcia. I'm Daisy Hartsfield. I'm the Administrator for the Social Services Division. I'm here on behalf of the Department of Human Services and our Director, Kathy Betts. I apologize for the late testimony submitted by the department. We are in support of this measure and defer to the Department of the Attorney General, and I'm available, stand by our testimony, and I'm available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got the Hawaii State Department of Health. DOH.
Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair, committee members. Thank you for the opportunity. We stand on our testimony in support. And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for being here. Catholic Charities of Hawaii.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. I'm Betty Lou Larson with Catholic Charities Hawaii. This is really a priority bill for us. We think we really need to have a comprehensive approach to the hidden problem of human trafficking, especially of children. This bill does provide that, which is really critical. This is the time, so we really ask you to move forward this bill. Thanks. You have my written testimony. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Betty. Thank you. Okay, next up, Zonta Club of Hilo. Don't see them on Zoom. Provider testimony in support, Imua Alliance. Testimony in support. And I've got 4 individuals providing testimony all in support. Anyone that I may have missed wishing to testify, please come
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee.
Judy.
I'm Judith Clark, Executive Director of Hawaii Youth Services Network. I did submit testimony, but it may have inadvertently gone in as an individual as opposed to Hawaii Youth Services Network when I submitted it. We are in support of this bill. Hawaii Youth Services Network has coordinated a statewide collaboration and partnership serving runaway and homeless youth since 1981. We agree that placing an unaccompanied minor in a shelter that also houses adults may be advisable if youth shelters are full in order to remove the youth from the dangers of living on the streets. Adolescents do have needs and issues that are different from adult homeless. Therefore, it is essential that the staff in any shelter where an unaccompanied minor is placed, they need to be knowledgeable about adolescent development and have programs that are designed to meet the needs of adolescents.
Clark, can you hear me? I apologize.
Yes.
I believe you're actually on Senate Bill 129. We're still on Senate Bill 235.
Oh, I beg your pardon, Representative.
No problem.
My apologies.
Judith. Thanks, Judy. No problem. Okay, so do I have any other testifiers for Senate Bill 235, Senate Draft 1? Okay, seeing none. Members, questions? No questions? Okay, let's start up with Senate Bill 129, Senate Draft 1. Judy, if you want to just come on back, that would be fine.
Okay. Thank you very much, Representative Mizuno and members of the committee. We do think it is essential that any shelter that houses minors have staff that are knowledgeable about adolescent development and programs and services that are designed to meet the specific needs of adolescents. We do fully support the amendment to the bill to require physical segregation of the minors and adults. However, we do believe that any shelter housing minors should meet all of the licensing standards and should be licensed by the Department of Human Services. We do not think that the sunset date for the current program should be eliminated. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it. Next up, we've got Department of Human Services.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and representative of the committee. Again, I'm Daisy Hartsfield on behalf of the Department of Human Services. The department did submit written testimony appreciating the intent of the bill. We offered comments, and we are requesting an amendment based on the guidance and recommendation from the Federal Administration for Children and Families, and that's included in our testimony as well. And I'll be available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Next up, we've got Youth Services and Empowerment. Yes.
Aloha, chairs, committee. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify. My name is Carla Hauser. I'm the executive director for RISE, Residential Youth Services and Empowerment. We provide services to young people experiencing homelessness across Oahu, testifying in strong support as we have been providing shelter and supportive services to minors ages 14 to 17 for the past 2 years. We are not a licensed child placing institution or a DHS shelter. But like many other community-based organizations who responded during COVID, RISE was contracted through the Department of Health to provide 5 beds of non-medical quarantine site for youth who had tested positive in DHS and Department of Health programs. Again, we were not a licensed DHS shelter. After the passage of this bill the first time, we continued to provide a safe space for unaccompanied minors while DHS was given time to work with community-based organizations like RISE to create a better system of care for unaccompanied kids who are at risk of homelessness and exploitation on the streets. Minors are referred to us in a number of different ways. Parents are often calling us on our 24/7 crisis hotline. Sometimes families are at a breaking point. There's been so much generational trauma, poverty, system involvement, housing insecurities. Sometimes their kids have mental health and substance abuse challenges they don't know how to handle. We do, as community-based organizations. We get situations where young people are kicked out of their homes. Sometimes street outreach folks, includes Halikipa, H3RC, IHS, and other state agencies, come across unaccompanied minors on the streets, and we have been able to provide a safe, low-barrier space until we can connect them with who they are and to the appropriate services. Oftentimes, that includes family reunification. We work closely with Missing Children Center, DHS, and our community policing teams to identify runaways and foster youth who've been kicked out and reconnect them. We also worked with the Department of Education to ensure that these minors finish their high school education. We do this as community-based partners, not as licensed DHS shelters. The state already has 83 licensed beds across the state, yet there is still a need for an alternative to system involvement for these kids and their families. If we aren't permitted to provide a basic human right of shelter to these minors, we move backwards in our continuum of care. If parents aren't given a resource to cool off without system involvement, we increase our chances for abuse in the household. I want to be clear, we are not opposed to regulations that the state wants to put in place to ensure a safe shelter. Minors and young adults already sleep separately under 24-hour supervision, unlike the encampments that are the alternative. We already fingerprint, background check, and are held to strict compliance rules. We are opposed to arbitrary timelines and unnecessary system involvement that has historically harmed our most marginalized communities.
Carla, can you sum it up, please?
Yep. Without the ability to shelter, these minors will utilize drop-in centers, and then at 6 o'clock when we close the doors, they will go back to the streets. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Opportunity Youth Action Hawaii provided testimony in support. We've got one individual, Will Caron, provided testimony in support. Anyone else wishing to testify on Senate Bill 129, Senate Draft 1? Oh, I'm sorry.
Chairman Zuno, I'm here, Melissa Pavlicek. I'm
Hi,
here on behalf
Melissa.
of the Opportunity Youth Action Hawaii, and I apologize, we submitted our written testimony, but since I'm here, I wanted to share with you, since you heard of a version of this, the House bill, we have had the opportunity to meet with the Department of Human Services, with the members of the Opportunity Youth Action Hawaii, like RISE, and have become much more educated about this bill and try to work on seeing if we can come up with something to suggest as a middle ground, because requiring a child placement licensure, we now have learned, will cause some youth to avoid those shelters. And we just want to see an option available to youth so that they are not on the street. So we do support this bill, and thank you very much for working on it.
Okay,
Aloha.
thank you, Melissa. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure?
Chair,
Oh, okay. Yes.
I apologize. Michael Gloy Jr. for the Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. We stand in full support of this measure. We want to thank RISE for everything that they've done, for being leaders on this. Without them, there's so many youth out there that would not have a place to go, and we can't let RISE stop doing the great work that they do on a daily basis. So we thank you for hearing this bill, and we support anything that RISE has to say on this issue.
Thank you. And
Mahalo.
Michael, can you submit your testimony? I don't have.
I
your
already
testimony.
did.
You already did? Okay. Just wanna make
As
sure we
late.
got a record.
Sorry.
I didn't have you on the
Apologize.
list. Thanks, Michael. Thank you.
Sure.
Is there anyone else wishing to testify on the bill before us? If not, questions? Questions? Yes, Representative Garcia. I'm good. Oh, you're good? Okay, you have a question? Okay, I have a question. Melissa, can you, I apologize, I don't have your testimony. It may have come in late, but just in case, if you can submit it. So, yes, I understand that the licensing requirement, here's the dilemma. Department of Human Services wants to be aligned and stay in compliance with federal law. There are some, we need to have the ability to have these shelters in place so these youth can be healthy and stay in a safe place. I get that. We're getting close, but we're not there yet. So my question or request from you would be if maybe, I'm gonna end up, my chair is, I have the inclination to pass the bill. Got a few amendments, but could you work with DHS and with some of the other providers like RISE and set up a meeting at my office so we can kind of figure out what the final draft could look like? It's got an effective date. Chances are this will go in a conference, but I'd feel a lot better if we had the parties that are being affected by this bill talk it out.
We'd welcome an opportunity to do that and be a convener, and we have not only RISE, but other organizations within the Opportunity Youth Action Hawaii, and I would welcome the opportunity to help with that.
Right, right. For the Senate side, was it Joy Sandpoint of Ventura
Yes.
that heard it first?
Yes.
Could you see if you can connect with Joy and say that we could have the meeting either in my office or her office, but she'd be willing to participate with us? I just want to make sure we have a good bill and, you know, we're making sure we respect everyone's rights here.
Thank you, Chairman Zuno. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Looking forward to working with you. Thank you very much. Okay, members, if there's no further questions, we're going to move on to Senate Bill 45. First up, Department of Education.
Hi, good morning, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, and Representative Garcia. I'm Heidi Armstrong, Department of Education, and the department stands on our written testimony. I want to highlight some suggested revisions on page 2, line 1, strike through school counselor, and on page 3, line 1, strike through school counselor. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Right, we got that. And instead put in domestic violence advocate.
Correct.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Next up, Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party.
Aloha again, Michael Gloy Jr. on behalf of the Stonewall Caucus. We stand in full support of this measure. Sometimes youth don't have parents that help them out or a guardian to be able to ask for protective orders, and they need other avenues to be able to get this needed assistance. So we ask that you pass this bill. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, Rainbow Family 808. Provided testimony in support. Rainbow Family 808. Next up, Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. I'm Angie Mercado, the Executive Director of the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We support the intent of this measure, and actually on behalf of our 28 member programs, which include all of the domestic violence service providers, especially those that work with survivors going through the protective order process, we actually impose the section of this measure that has domestic violence advocates petition on behalf of a minor without their parents' consent or legal guardian's consent. As you can see from the testimony that was provided, there are many youth, college students, and other folks in the community who recognize that survivors, especially those who are minors, need to have access to the safety and the protection that is provided through our protective order statute. However, with the language as it is included, we are actually undermining the very system that is put in place to work with survivors by jeopardizing the programs that do so. And I'm talking specifically about domestic violence advocate and their organizations acting on behalf of a minor's parent. We believe that this becomes a potential liability for an organization. And further, we recognize that this could be something that could be retaliatory against individual advocates working with minors. We support survivors, especially minors, having access to this protective measure. That's why we respectfully suggest that we entirely strike out this section that talks about school counselors, mental health professionals, and domestic violence advocates, and instead we include language that includes minors who are 16 or older, or those who have been emancipated. I know that there's an emancipation bill that's making its way through the Capitol. Because that's actually consistent with what we're finding with other states. There are other 10 jurisdictions that specifically allow a minor to petition without their parents' consent, and with the exception of California that allows a 12-year-old, most of them start at 16 or 17 years old. And I forgot what else I was going to say. But we respectfully ask you to consider this amendment. We believe that this is in the best interest of minors, and we actually have found that advocates that work with minors that allow them to petition on their own behalf in other states, that this is actually yet an empowering experience for them when they have been caught up in the system of power and control in an intimate partner relationship. Mahalo for this opportunity, and available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, Hawaii Coalition for Child Protective Reform. Provided testimony in opposition. So I've got 6 individuals providing testimony all in support. I've got 3 other individuals providing testimony in opposition. So if you have not come up to testify, please feel free to come on up, testify, state your name, either here or on Zoom. Okay, seeing none. Someone's on?
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Miley Griffin. I'm a social work graduate student from UH Manoa, testifying on behalf of myself. I appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of this bill. And I already submitted my testimony, but just wanted to give the gist of it. I work at a teen mental health clinic, and one of the first questions always on my mind is whether our client's age would prohibit any access to care. So I feel like this bill would provide further options and opportunities for those who need further support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else wishing to support on Senate Bill 45, Senate Draft 1? More? Okay, sorry.
Good morning. My name is Amy Akanti. I'm a graduate student pursuing a master's degree in social work at UH Manoa. I'm in strong support of measures that will empower adolescents in these difficult situations with the help and guidance of a trusted advocate. I support the intent of this measure as I understand it. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Genevieve Terrell, and I am testifying in strong support. As a future social worker and a community member who worked with a lot of adolescents through my internship, I would like to say that this bill is a great start to a guarded community. Many of our adolescents today goes through this situation that the bill explained, and sometimes are led to worst case scenarios, especially involving domestic violence. Therefore, being able to have another trusted adult would not only give them more hope, but also more safety. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. That's it. Oh,
Good morning.
thanks.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and all members of the committee. My name is Francesca Glaza, and I'm a Master's of Social Work student specializing in behavioral mental health who fully supports Senate Bill 45. I feel that kids are often overlooked, and sometimes it's hard to talk to parents, guardians, or even peers about being in an abusive relationship. This bill will allow teens to go to a trustworthy mental health professional to sign off on protective orders and trust that they could be kept safe. Just like adults, teens experience similar trauma of domestic violence just at a younger age. A minor should have the same rights as adults to escape the abuse through protection orders without the need of a parent or guardian to say so on their behalf. Their parent or guardian may not always be available. However, access to safety and protection should always be available to every human. Thank you for your time and opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Good? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, members, any questions? Again, this is on Senate Bill 45, Senate Draft 1. Questions? Yes, Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. For the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Thank you for coming here. Your testimony mentioned that there's a possible liability for the various organizations. Could you briefly summarize that liability?
Yeah, I think parents could sue the DV programs for, I think a couple of the testimonies actually mentioned the parental rights. So an organization that's going to be standing in front of, on behalf of a parent, I think that definitely could be retaliation against individual advocates, and I definitely think that there could be parents that would wholeheartedly be opposed to an organization standing in on their behalf without their knowledge and without their consent. And if there's an unfavorable outcome, as a result, God forbid something happens to that minor, then I think that parents could potentially go after the domestic violence program.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Angie, thank you for being here. Have you seen any instances where an organization steps in and helps the child, the minor, and the parents are completely opposed? I mean, have you seen any instances where parents are like, no, I don't want my kid doing this, but the child genuinely needs help?
Yeah, when we've spoken, I mean, that's actually the reason why this bill came up, is because there actually are a lot of instances where there are minors who are in intimate partner relationships and their parents either don't know or did not approve. And so you get that situation where maybe the only solution for them is protection through a protective order, and the parent will not consent because they did not approve of the relationship, or they just don't go to their parents because they're afraid of whatever that relationship is amongst parents. And so what ends up happening is you now have that minor who is in a potentially, they've determined that they are in a dangerous situation, they're seeking some protection and some solution, and there's now no way for them to get that. And there are all sorts of complications of how this is served and who gets notified. Potentially parents would get notified anyway, would find out if you're being served, if you're serving another minor.
So hence your request to make the age 16 approximately.
Yeah, and I think really that looking at it from the age perspective, what we did is we looked at the other states. So we worked with one of our national partners at the Battered Women's Justice Project, and they actually created an entire schematic of all the states and territories that have protective orders that have provisions for minors. And when we looked at the 10 that have explicit statute that allow a minor to petition without their parents or legal guardians' explicit consent, those, with the exception of California, have around 16 or 17 years old.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, if not, thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony and Q&A. Okay, guys, we're going to move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 406, Senate Draft 1. First up, Grandparents' Rights Hawaii Campaign. Provided testimony in support. And I've got 7 individuals all providing testimony in support. So if there's anyone here or on Zoom that would like to testify, please come on up and state your name. Okay. Appearing that there is no one here for this bill, but we've got a number of written testimonies submitted, I guess I don't know who we're going to ask the questions to, but if members are all right, I'm going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. Thank you, members. Yes. Oh, Lou. Lou Ottercheck, Disability Rights Center.
No, I'm on the next bill, Senate Bill 313.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Okay, we're going to the next bill right now, Senate Bill 313. Lou, since you're already there, why don't you pick up?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for hearing this bill, Representative Mizuno.
Yes, sir.
I think we do have one of our advocates who's there in person, and I think testimony has been submitted. This is actually a pretty simple bill. The issue of the quorum for the State Rehab Council is something I would defer to them. But the provision regarding the client assistance program is something that really affects our agency. As you know, the Hawaii Disability Rights Center administers a number of different programs, and the client assistance program focuses on voc rehab issues. Howard Lesser, who's there today, is our senior advocate who specializes in that, and he's a member of the State Rehab Council. So under federal law, we are required to have a member on the council, and our member from the client assistance program is exempt from term limits under federal law. State law has term limits in general for members, but doesn't really deal with the client assistance program one way or the other. Anyway, last year, Senator Sam Buenaventura's committee was good enough to hold a confirmation hearing for Mr. Lesser. And approved him. And then after that, the governor's office of boards and commissions pulled his nomination because they claimed that he was term limited. And I went around and around with a deputy attorney general who finally agreed with me that the federal law supersedes the state law. And so his appointment was made on an interim basis. It's just a minor housekeeping bill, but this would conform with federal law. And so we would really appreciate if the committee would be able to move this bill forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Thank you very much. Okay, next up, we've got the Department of Human Services. Provided testimony in support, Department of Health. Also provided testimony in support, Disability and Communication Access Board. Testimony in support, Hawaii State Rehabilitation Council.
Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, committee members, my name is Howard Lesser, and I'm here subbing for Annette Tashiro, who is the chair of our State Rehabilitation Council. We've submitted testimony in strong support. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got the National Coalition of State Rehabilitation Councils.
And we are a charter member. Hawaii is a charter member of NCSRC, and we submit testimony in strong support.
Howard, thanks for wearing 2 hats today.
One more.
Okay. National Disability Rights Network.
That would be our
3 hats.
parent organization based in Washington, D.C., and we stand on testimony in strong support. Thank you.
Howard, since I already have you there, can you stay there? And Lou Artichek, if you can come back on Zoom.
Yep.
Members, questions? I have a question for both Howard and Lou, if you're there.
Sure, I'm here.
Okay, pretty simple bill. We're bringing down the membership from 21 to 15. You just can't get quorum. We need 15 in order to comply with federal law. If we don't, we can lose federal funding. Is that correct?
That the State Rehab Council has to have a minimum of 15 members according to federal law.
Right.
Yes.
We're following federal law in this case. We don't want to lose any federal funding, so
Correct.
that's what we're trying to do. And Lou, do you agree? Lou Archek?
I'm having a little trouble hearing the question, Representative Mizuno. You're asking about whether federal law requires a certain number of members on the council?
Yeah, their minimum, all they need is 15 members on a council. The state law has.
I agree with Mr. Lesser. The federal law sets out 15. There's nothing, I mean, the state is allowed to have more members if it wants. If the state can have more than 15 members, but they have to have, I believe, at least 15 members. Yes, that issue is something that the State Rehab Council is more concerned about. I mean, not that I'm not concerned about it, but I mean, our issue is mostly the client assistance program. But the State Rehab Council apparently has had trouble getting members and so forth. And so as a result of the law, they haven't been able to take official action because they haven't had a quorum. So I think that's why the Rehab Council was hoping that the state law could change to conform to the federal threshold of 15.
And Lou, if I can ask a follow-up question, Howard did a great job explaining why we needed to bring that number down to 15, which is approved by federal law. State law would have that council be 21, but they just can't get quorum, which keeps us out of compliance of federal law, which therefore means that many times we can't get federal funding. So if all parties are okay, I think my recommendation would pass this measure out as is with a clean date. Want to make sure that we're following federal law and that we get federal monies due to us. So if all parties are okay, I think that's going to be my recommendation.
No, that would be great, especially since right, so far the bill has not been amended. I mean, obviously, that's always within the prerogative of the chair, but so far the bill has not been amended. So if it passes in that form, it still has to go to the House Judiciary Committee, but that would certainly increase the chances of the bill, you know, getting a smooth ride, so to speak, and having an opportunity to pass, and then we would be in conformance with federal law.
Yes, that's going to be my recommendation to our committee.
Okay, well, thank you, Representative.
Howard, Lou, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Chair.
Okay, members, any further questions? Okay, if not, we're going to move on to the next bill. It's going to be Senate Bill 295, Senate Draft 2, Scott, Department of Human Services.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee.
Good morning.
Again, Daisy Hartsfield on behalf of the Department of Human Services. The department did submit written testimony in support of the measure. We did provide comments. We're deferring to the Office of Wellness and Resilience, and we are requesting an amendment which has to do, which we hope will help to facilitate the work of the working group, and it's an amendment to exempt that working group from provisions of Part 1, Chapter 92 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. And I'm also available for any questions. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Provided testimony in support. Office of Wellness and Resilience.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tia Hartsock, Office of Wellness and Resilience in the Office of the Governor, in strong support, and just want to encourage the committee to consider the opportunity with this bill to collaborate with members of the community as well as the department through the Malama Ohana Working Group. Here for any questions, but happy to have it in my office and look at that as the working group continues the work. It's going to be hopefully a great opportunity to look at the workings of the child welfare system and work together to improve the outcomes for our youth and families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, Epic Ohana.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee members. Thank you. My name is Lisa Vaughn Sakona. I'm Program Development Manager at Epic Ohana. I'm here on behalf of Lori, who's unable to be here, but she sends her regrets. You have our testimony in support of Senate Bill 295. We just wanted to point out a couple requests that were in Lori's bill and a testimony, which was to request that the bill be funded, and it's in the testimony as well, and that an effective date be set, hopefully upon signing or whichever the committee deems appropriate. But that's our two amended requests, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party.
Aloha again. I'm Michael Glory Jr. on behalf of the Stonewall Caucus. We stand in full support of this bill, but we do ask for one amendment, and that is to have for the working group to have representation from the LGBTQIA plus community. If this is truly to be a transformative working group, that the voices of the LGBTQIA community definitely need to be represented here. The needs of our community are different from the straight and cisgender world. Just off the top of my head is that 40% of the homeless unaccompanied minors identify as LGBTQIA plus, where we in the rest of society, where we account for about 10% of the society. So the needs for our community are definitely different, and we definitely need to have our voices at the table. So we encourage you to pass this bill, but we do ask for our inclusion in the working group. Mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up, we've got Judith Clark, Hawaii Youth Services Network.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee. I'm Judith Clark, Executive Director of Hawaii Youth Services Network, a statewide coalition of youth-serving organizations. We're in strong support of this bill. Hawaiian and Pacific Islander children and youth are way overrepresented in our child welfare systems. They have consistently made up 40 to 50% of our runaway and homeless youth for over 20 years. We believe that placing the Malama Ohana initiative under the Office of Wellness and Resilience will help to support and enhance the initiative, and we look forward to working with them to improve outcomes for these children. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Judy. Next up, we've got the Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. This is Angie Mercado, Executive Director, Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We stand on our written testimony and would further add that we support the amendments suggested by Epic Ohana, which would include some appropriation and also a change to the effective date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Catholic Charities of Hawaii. Provided testimony in support, Halekipa. Provided testimony in support, Rainbow Family 808. In support, Hawaii Coalition for Child Protective Reform. Provided testimony in support. And I've got 25 individuals that all provided testimony in support. So at this point, if there's anyone wishing to testify on Senate Bill 295, Senate Draft 2, please come on up and state your name.
Chair, someone on Zoom.
Okay.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the House Human Services Committee. My name is Shauna Kukila. I am providing my personal testimony today in support of SB 295, creating the working group Malama Ohana to transform the existing child welfare system. First, I would like to thank the introducers of this bill, as it is vital to include the voices of the community in government decisions, especially those that impact our local families so deeply and profoundly. I have submitted written testimony, yet I would like to add in some additional comments to the record today. According to recent government statistics, an average of 1 in 44 children today are affected by autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. Yet there is no seat at the table for these children or anyone within the disability community in this existing work group. Families with disabled children deserve special protections, as do their vulnerable children and adult family members under Title II and 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of the American with Disabilities Act. In my own experience and others, there is currently no specialized programs for disabled children in foster care, nor are there any specialized family and child treatment plans for DHS's Safe Family Home Reports, which are cookie cutter and which often violate the rights of individuals with disabilities and those with special speech and language barriers, protections which are provided under federal law. Currently, the Hawaii Disability Rights Center is silent on this issue. If the working group wants to truly reflect the community it serves, it should include the members of the disability community, as well as from other vulnerable populations such as domestic violence victims, the LGBTQ community, and immigrants who also must have a seat at the table to have their voices heard and their children and families protected. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone else wishing to testify? No on Zoom? Anyone here wishing to testify? Okay, if not, members, are there any questions again on Senate Bill 295, Senate Draft 2? No questions? Okay, thank you, members. We're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. Senate Bill 398, Senate Draft 1. First up, Department of Human Services.
Aloha again, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Daisy Hartsfield on behalf of the Department of Human Services. In its current version, the department submitted testimony in support of this bill. We did also provide proposed appropriation amounts, and also just needed to note that we have similar requests in our budget for some of these amounts. And I am available for any questions. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, I've got the Hawaii Coalition for Child Protective Reform. 2 members from that group. And I've got an individual. Dara Carlin. Okay, so those last 3 all provided testimony in opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to testify either here or on Zoom on Senate Bill 398, Senate Draft 1? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? No questions? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. This will be Senate Bill 1592. First up, Department of Health Executive Office on Aging. Hi, Director. Good to see you.
Good morning, Chair
Morning.
Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, members of the committee. Carolyn Cuddy Rao with the Executive Office on Aging, and we stand in strong support of the intent of Senate Bill 1592 SD2 related to our Senior Medicare Patrol, which we call SMP. The purpose of this bill is to appropriate funding for 3 additional positions for this program, which currently has 2 temporary positions in this. And I'd just like to highlight some of the data in our testimony. I know you have our testimony in front of you. Currently, $70 billion are lost to fraudulent claims. 34,000 is of criminals are victimized, and they lose about $34,000 per year. Hawaii reports over 17 million are lost annually to online scams. And if this continues and we don't protect our kapuna, we're projected to lose up to 53 million annually by 2035. So this program, again, supports fraudulent claims against Medicare, Medicaid, and other health-related scams, along with all the other scams, online scams, romance scams, ransomware scams that are happening throughout the community. And without an increase in the staffing, we're not going to have the ability to safeguard our kapuna against being victimized by these scams in future years. So we strongly support the intent of this bill as long as it doesn't reduce or replace priorities in the administrative budget. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Okay, next up, Disability Communications Access Board. Provided testimony in support, AARP Hawaii. Testimony in support, Policy Advisory Board for Elder Affairs, PABIA. Testimony in support, Hawaii Family Caregiver Coalition. Testimony in support, and I've got 2 individuals both providing testimony in support. Anyone wishing to testify either here or through video teleconference? No. Okay. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the last bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 460, Senate Draft 1. First up, Office of Community Services.
Good morning, Chair Mizuno,
Good morning.
Vice Chair Amato, and members of this distinguished committee. Giovanni Dela Cruz, the Executive Director of the Office of Community Services. My office has submitted a written testimony in strong support of this measure, and I'll be here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up, Department of Human Services.
Good morning again, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. Scott Morishige, Administrator of BESD, on behalf of DHS and our Director, Kathy Betts. We stand in support of this measure and defer to Office of Community Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and I'm just going to say that I've got 14, 15, approximately 16 testifiers in support. Everyone's in support. I'm inclined to move this out with tech amendments. Perhaps even a clean date. Is there anyone wishing to testify on this measure? Senate Bill 460, Senate Draft 1. Hi.
Aloha, mahalo, Chair Mizuno, Vice Chair Amato, members of the committee. My name is Kina Mahi. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Strategic Partnerships for Hawaii Food Bank. We stand on our written testimony, but we did just want to emphasize the need that is in our community. I was in Foodland just the other day, and there was a mom a few spots ahead of me who was juggling whether she was going to put back the diapers or the food. And we know these stories are more than just her. We serve about 120,000 people per month still, and they're facing SNAP benefit cliffs, high inflation, and a lot of other pressures. So mahalo for considering this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure?
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Nate Hicks here with Hawaii Public Health Institute. Thanks for the opportunity. I just wanted to point to the fact that this emergency food systems that the food banks provide is an absolute social service to our state. Many people are dependent upon this, and our society needs this to exist. It currently is run and funded by donations, generous donations from private individuals, but this is a social service just like any other. We wouldn't allow an educational system to be dependent only on private donations, and we should make sure that state funds are also used to help fund this social services that the food banks provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to testify?
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Charlotte Tevis, and I'm a sophomore in college and a lifelong resident in the state. I am testifying in support of Senate Bill 460. I submitted written testimony. When I was a senior 2 years ago in high school, I was shocked to hear two radio DJs make jokes about local singer Paula Fuga and how she struggled with food insecurity. Their insensitivity caused me to become an advocate for ending hunger in Hawaii in our lifetime. Working with other students, we've collected over 1,100 pounds of food to donate to the Hawaii Food Bank. Once you know that more than 55,000 children right here in our state struggle with hunger, it's impossible not to act. And I hope that you will take action today to support SB 460. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Ms. Tevis. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Do we have someone else?
There was, I got contacted, Misty Kuheana wanted to testify on Zoom, but she wasn't let in.
Oh, there's a person on Zoom trying to get in. First name Misty, last name?
Kuheana.
She doesn't want to get in?
We don't see anybody waiting.
Oh, okay, okay, got it. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, if there's no one else wishing to testify on this measure, members, questions? Questions? We're good. We're good? Okay. We're gonna come back at 11:31. Okay, thank you very much for being here and testifying on all these bills. Chair is gonna call a recess. We're gonna reconvene for decision-making at 11:30 a.m. sharp. 11:30 a.m. sharp for decision-making. Again, thank you very much. We are now in recess. reconvening the 9 a.m. hearing. First bill, Senate Bill 239, Senate Draft 2. Chair's recommendation. Committee members, I'm going to need your help. We'd like to insert the companion bills, House Bill 261, House Draft 1, because it already has the recommended amendments by the Attorney General's office. It already includes the standards for the Department of Human Services to distribute the funds appropriated in this bill as grants to private child care providers. It's a big plus. So let's go with House Bill, amendment to insert House Bill 261, HD1, the companion bill to this bill. In addition, we'd like to add further amendments to be available to licensed group child care centers, licensed group child care homes, licensed infant and toddler centers, and registered family child care homes. Funding to be approved for those identified agencies. And finally, the final amendment, page 8, line 16, we're going to delete the semicolon and bring up the wording in subsection 3. The Attorney General said if we did this, this would cure anything, the concerns that they had. Finally, in the committee report, we'd like to identify the concerns from the Attorney General's office regarding Article 10, Section 1 of the Hawaii State Constitution, which prohibits appropriations to public funds for the support or benefit of any sectarian or non-sectarian private educational institution. According to the AGs, this may limit the number of eligible child care facilities under the Child Care Accreditation Program. And finally, in the committee report, I'd like to provide prior concurrence to the next committee, that's Consumer Protection Committee, to make any necessary amendments. Very important bill. We've already got a effective date on it, so we'll keep it with that. Members, any questions or concerns before we take the vote? Okay, if not, Madam Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on SB 239, SD2, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Representative Belatti.
Aye.
Representative Iligan.
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi is excused. Representative Takanuchi.
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto.
Aye.
Representative Garcia.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, Vice Chair and members. Next measure, Senate Bill 1023, Senate Draft 1. Recommendation passed with a House Draft 1. Tech amendments. Adopt the amendments by the Department of Human Services. Guys, in the committee report, I'd like to put that Budget and Finance does not support the inclusion of language to allow the deposit of federal funds into the preschool Open Doors Special Fund. We just want to note it in there. Don't know if this could adversely affect the ability to pull down federal funds, but it's noted in the committee report. Also, committee report, DHS wants to change the accreditation requirement to be voluntary for now. We're not going to change it in the bill. Put it in the committee report, please. Also, committee report, DHS requests funds to be appropriated through the executive budget. They want to make this permanent. And also, DHS provides the estimated general fund appropriation for fiscal year 2024 through 2025 and 2025 through 2026. Again, we're not going to put that in the bill, but if we can put all those in the committee report, we're going to give the next committee a heads up on what's coming down. Those are my recommendations. Any questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you take the vote?
Voting on SB 1023, SD1, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye, noting that Representative Kobayashi is excused. Any members with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next bill, members. Senate Bill 235, Senate Draft 1. We're going to do an HD1, tech amendments. Already has an effective date. Simply in the committee report, provide that we're going to give prior concurrence to JHA. Prior concurrence to the next committee. Any questions? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on SB 235, SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Representative Kobayashi excused. Is anyone voting no? Any members with reservations? Seeing none, thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next measure, Senate Bill 129, Senate Draft 1, HD1, tech amendments. In addition, we're going to accept the Department of Human Services recommended amendments. This is for 346-17.6, subsection H, HRS. It's going to be to keep the shelter services aligned and compliant with federal law. So we're going to accept those amendments. Finally, in the committee report, please note that we're going to give prior concurrence to the Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Committee. And finally, committee report, DHS has concerns about the omission of license for providers in this bill. Note that in the committee report, so Judiciary, Hawaiian Affairs will have a heads up. That's it. Already has the effective date, yes. So any questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on SB 129, SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Seeing none, thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next bill, Senate Bill 45, Senate Draft 1, recommendations passed with an HD 1. We're going to accept the Department of Education amendments to strike school counselor, change to domestic violence advocates. In addition, we're going to accept the amendments recommended by a coalition against domestic violence to delete lines 1 through 16 on page 3 and inserting subsection 3, any minor 16 years of age or older on their own behalf without the consent of a parent or legal guardian, or subsection 4, any emancipated minor as defined in section 577-25 Hawaii Revised Statutes. And I'm going to give it a clean date, June 30th, 2023. And in the committee report, we're going to give prior concurrence to Judiciary Hawaiian Affairs if they see any changes needed. Any questions, concerns, thoughts before? Yes, Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. I just feel that this bill is a clear violation of parental rights, so therefore I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Right. That was a concern, and
Yeah.
so, but thank you. Any other concerns, comments? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on SB 45 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Representative Garcia voting no. The excused absence of Representative Kobayashi. Any other noes or reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Thanks, member. Next bill, Senate Bill 406, Senate Draft 1. We're going to do an HD 1 with a clean date, June 30th, 2023. Committee report. Please provide prior concurrence to Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs from our committee. And that should do it. Any questions, concerns, thoughts? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on SB 406 SD1, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Any members with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Thank you. Senate Bill 313, recommendation to pass as is. It's got a clean date. They're just bringing the council down from 21 to 15. They have not been able to get quorum, and if they don't get quorum, it jeopardizes their ability to get federal vocational rehabilitation funding. So, easy bill, clean date. Let's just pass it as is. Senate Bill 313. Questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on SB 313, Chair's recommendation is to pass unamended. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Do any members have any reservations? Any members voting no? Seeing none, thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much. Okay, for Senate Bill 295, Senate Draft 2, HD1 tech amendments. Guys, this is a big deal. This is going to affect child welfare services as we know it. So I wanted to add a number of members to this task force. Kind of perplexed that they don't have family court or a family court judge in here, especially when these cases will be going through family court. So I want to add in this bill a co-chair to be from the family court. I would assume it's going to be a judge, but we'll let family court decide. So we're going to add a co-chair to this workforce or work group, family court judge, or someone from family court, a representative from family court. Second, I wanted to add a co-chair to this task force, or working group, I'm sorry. The DHS director or her designee. I mean, the DHS has purview over all this, and so I think they should be a co-chair to this. Finally, we'd like to have the co-chair be adding a co-chair from, which will be the director or the director's designee of the Wellness and Resilience Office. They're housing this entire program in their office, but yet they don't have any representation, and so that's a head scratcher for me. So that person, the director, should be the co-chair or her designee. Furthermore, We've heard testimony about how law enforcement is involved. We want to add 2 members of law enforcement, one from HPD and one from the public safety area. We're going to allow Speaker to pick one and Senate President to pick the other. So if Speaker and Senate President get together, somebody pick a representative from HPD, someone picks someone from public safety, we've got law enforcement in here, which we need. In addition, you heard the testimony, Democratic Party wanted LGBTQ community to be involved. Let's pick 2 members from the LGBTQ community, one selected by Senate President, one selected by Speaker. Also adding 2 members from the disability community, one selected by Senate President, one selected by Speaker. Finally, add 2 members, one from the Senate, one from the House, same thing, one selected by Senate President for the Senator, and one selected from the Speaker of the House, the Representative. And that is it. Questions, concerns? Okay, if not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on SB 295 SD2, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Any members voting no?
No vote.
Thank you, Representative Garcia. Any members with reservations? No. Thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. Next bill on the agenda, Senate Bill 398, Senate Draft 1. Recommendation passed with amendments. Tech amendments. Place in the committee report funding by DHS to include the full-time positions. So again, I don't want to put the funding amount in the bill at all, but for finance to know if we can put funding requests and funding and for full-time positions, FTEs, if we can place that in the committee report, just so it gives a heads up to the finance committee so they know how much money they're dealing with and how many FTEs they're dealing with. Any questions or concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on SB 398 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Any members voting no?
No vote.
No for Representative Garcia. Any members with reservations? Seeing none. Thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next bill is Senate Bill 1592, Senate Draft 2. Recommendation is to, it already has the effective date, December 31st, 2050. Recommendation passed as is. Questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you take the vote?
Voting on SB 1592 SD2, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next measure is Senate Bill 460, Senate Draft 1. Recommendation is passed with technical amendments. In the committee report, let's put that the last supplemental emergency allotment will end in this month, in March of 2023. That's why this bill is needed more than ever. Already has an effective date, so those would be my recommended amendments, the tech amendments. Questions, concerns? If not, Madam Vice Chair, can you please take the vote?
Voting on SB 460 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your measure is adopted.
Thank you. Thank you, members. We're now adjourned.